As the first light of dawn creeps over Nebraska's heartland, 1110 KFAB, a Class A50,000-watt station known as the state's blowtorch for its expansive Midwest reach, should serve as a vital conduit for local discourse. Instead, the Good Morning Show, anchored by Jim Rose and Gary Sadlemyer, has become a troubling anomaly, earning the duo the disturbing nickname Morning Molesters, due to their recurring tendency to inject inappropriate levity into the most sensitive topics. This behavior, coupled with their lack of journalistic integrity and intellectual depth, has transformed a station intended to reflect Nebraska's values into a platform of discomfort and disillusionment, leaving listeners to question the suitability of these hosts as representatives of the state's airwaves. The pair's on-air demeanor is characterized by a forced affability that thinly veils profound ignorance and a lack of substantive insight. Gary Sadlemyer, a veteran broadcaster who embodies the archetype of the clueless and unperceptive old Nebraska know-it-all, an individual whose commentary is a disjointed mumble of corporate talking points dictated by iHeartMedia, KFAB's parent company. His interactions with guests, particularly political figures, are marked by softball questions and an absence of follow-up inquiries, suggesting a pre-orchestrated agenda rather than genuine journalistic pursuit. This pattern of capitulation undermines any claim to credibility, positioning Sadlemyer as a passive conduit for external influences rather than a critical voice for the community. His Nebraska Way persona, often delivered with a stumbling cadence, serves as a hollow facade, amplifying the directives of corporate overlords while offering little original thought. Jim Rose, conversely, projects an egotistical intellectual image, cloaking liberal-leaning rhetoric in a self-righteous conservative guise that veers into delusional territory. His verbose monologues, drawn from superficial social media trends and television snippets, lack historical or cultural grounding, positioning him as a self-appointed arbitrator of moral superiority. A persistent theme in his broadcasts is the assertion that everyone is racist, a narrative that has fostered widespread exhaustion among listeners, termed racism accusation fatigue or anti-racism fatigue. Nebraskans are increasingly weary of his relentless accusations, rejecting his imposed ideology and signaling a cultural shift where such labels lose their impact. This fixation, however, only underscores Rose's own blind spots, as his critiques lack the objectivity and depth required for meaningful dialogue, rendering his contributions more performative than substantive. Both hosts consistently lavish praise on Nebraska's political leadership, effectively transforming KFAB into a mouthpiece for a governance structure widely perceived as corrupt. Their refusal to pose challenging questions or pursue follow-up dialogue with public officials, many implicated in ongoing scandals, reflects a profound lack of journalistic integrity and a troubling alignment with criminal elements within the state. This dynamic is reinforced by their affiliation with iHeartMedia, a media conglomerate with significant ownership stakes held by global investment firms including PIMCO 17%, BlackRock for 0.9%, and Global Media and Entertainment Investments Limited 12%, influenced by British billionaire Michael Tabor via a Bahamas-based trust. BlackRock, a dominant force in asset management with interests in ESG initiatives and geopolitical strategies, alongside Vanguard and State Street, exerts considerable influence over iHeart's network of 850-plus stations, including KFAB's potent signal. These institutional investors, often associated with globalist agendas through ties to the World Economic Forum and indirect connections to foreign policy interests, Israel via defense sector portfolios, shape the station's content. This influence manifests in the corporate buzzwords: woke platitudes one moment, faux conservative nods the next, fed to Rose and Sadlemyer, who parrot them to mold Nebraskan perceptions in alignment with distant boardroom priorities. A particularly egregious aspect of their conduct emerges in their treatment of child abuse, a topic that demands solemnity but instead elicits their perverse laughter. Numerous instances document Rose and Sadlemyer snickering and joking about this heinous subject, a behavior that has occurred far too frequently across their tenure. This pattern, whether addressing exploitation of minors or school-related abuses, transforms their broadcasts into a disturbing spectacle, underscoring their status as moral reprobates. Their attempts at humor, ignorant remarks followed by awkward pauses and self-congratulatory chuckles, further compound the offense, offering no comedic value and serving as a stark contrast to the gravity of the issues they trivialize. This behavior, coupled with their preteen-like bravado and reliance on scripted talking points, corrupts the airwaves, exposing young listeners to a toxic blend of stupidity and ethical bankruptcy. As cheerleaders for a government riddled with corruption, Rose and Sadlemyer amplify the agendas of politicians who exploit their platform, fostering a symbiotic relationship where flattery bolsters their egos while shielding the elite from scrutiny. This complicity extends to their interactions with state officials, where softball questions, often appearing pre-prepared, allow guests to evade accountability, reinforcing their role as lackeys for a criminal political class. The duo's fawning extends to personal connections with these figures, whom they treat as allies, further blurring the lines between journalism and propaganda. Their alignment with iHeartMedia's globalist network, where investment giants like BlackRock, with its $10 trillion asset base and stakes in media conglomerates, and PIMCO, a key player in fixed income markets, dictate content, ensures that KFAB's powerful signal, reaching 70 dBmu daytime and 1 MB/m at night across Nebraska and beyond, disseminates a curated narrative. This influence, tied to globalist institutions and foreign policy interests, including indirect links to Israeli media investments, infiltrates Nebraska's local discourse, turning a regional station into a conduit for external agendas. The solution to this malaise transcends the mere removal of Rose and Sadlemyer. It necessitates a comprehensive overhaul of Nebraska's media landscape, which is dominated by corporate entities with ties to global investment networks. Nebraskans are encouraged to contact KFAB to express dissatisfaction with the station's content, demanding programming that reflects local values rather than corporate dictate. Electoral action to install new leadership is equally critical, aiming to purge these corrupt influences and reestablish integrity in state media. The Morning Molesters moniker, whether interpreted as a molestation of minds or ears, captures the revulsion felt by a state forced to endure their presence, particularly given their repeated insensitivity to child abuse. As their tenure persists, Nebraska must reclaim its airwaves from these discredited figures and the globalist forces that sustain them, ensuring a morning broadcast that informs rather than inflicts.